Saucerful of Secrets is the transitional album between Syd Barrett leaving Pink Floyd and David Gilmour joining. Transitional albums, especially between lead singers and songwriters, are hard, but they're not impossible to pull off. On the Moody Blues' second album, Justin Hayward replaced frontman Denny Layne, and the result was Days of Future Past, a masterfully crafted progressive rock record. But whereas Days of Future Past has a clear vision from concept to creation, Saucerful of Secrets is in some kind of unfocused purgatory between Syd and the new lineup, and I can't really blame them for it. They were going through a really rough period. But the band was hopeful about this new direction. We know Roger Waters already had some practice at writing songs, and the B-side to 1967's Apples and Oranges was one of Rick Wright's, the jazzy Paint Box, which I think should have been the A-side. In fact, the next single, released before Saucerful, was another one of Rick's.
Everybody wakes, and in the morning...
This one sounds really forced to me. You can tell they're really trying to write another See Emily play, but neither Roger nor Rick really had the same songwriting sensibilities as Syd. I like the B-side a little better, Julia Dream, one of Roger's tunes and the first to feature David Gilmour as their vocalist. But regardless, it's clear that the band was capable of carrying on without Syd. Even a couple of songs from 1967 showed that promise. One of these songs was a new Roger Waters tune called Set the Controls for the Heart of the Sun, a much improved effort in comparison to Take Thy Stethoscope and Walk. Set the controls for the heart of the sun. It has a much darker feel and was influenced by the writings of Chinese poetry. Nick Mason's tribal-sounding drumming is a highlight here.
The song I never get tired of either playing or really listening to and thinking about how to sort of develop it is Set the Controls, generally played with mallets rather than sticks.
And to the best of my knowledge, it's the only released Floyd song to include both Syd Barrett and David Gilmour on guitar.
I think there's a sort of a guitar on there that Syd did, and there's a bit of guitar on there that I did.
While Set the Controls is a highlight and would point towards Pink Floyd's future, I feel like this song would find a better groove live. This is going to be a running theme for a while. Also, Rick had a song left over from the Piper sessions called Remember a Day, curiously with producer Norman Smith sitting in on drums. Again, much moodier than Syd's upbeat songs. Whereas their best-known song was still See Emily Play, Rick melancholically asks, why can't we play today? So with a few songs in the can, the new lineup finished the album, relying on Dave and Rick to sing a lot. One interesting thing of note is that this was the first album cover to be designed by Hipgnosis, which consisted of Pink Floyd's Cambridge friends Storm Thurgeson and Aubrey Powell.
My first attempt at doing anything at all in record covers.
We try to simulate on the picture a kind of swirling cosmos.
It's a great psychedelic cover, well representing the space theme of Set the Controls, but it is telling that the picture of the band is much smaller than what we see on Piper. Saucerful of Secrets would also be the name of Nick Mason's touring group, which pays tribute to pre-Dark Side Pink Floyd material. Moving on to the album itself, which I obviously do not own on vinyl, it kicks off pretty funky with Let There Be More Light, written by Roger. That bass line and drum groove are really exciting before the song takes a chill pill to the main melody. Rick sings the verses, accompanied by a whisper vocal from Roger, while Dave sings the choruses. He also plays his first guitar solo for the Vamp. And while most of the time early on it felt like Dave was pressured to sound like Syd, he gets a chance to stretch out his blues licks a little more here. I've gotta say, the production is a huge downgrade. It's kinda hard to hear the vocals, not that Let There Be More Light is one of Roger's stronger lyrical efforts. Part of the reason is because it felt like producer Norman Smith was taking a less hands-on approach and encouraging them to produce themselves. Let There Be More Light is not as strong an opening as Astronomy Domine on Piper, but I'd say it's the one track you'd really want to listen to, considering there's better versions of Set the Controls to be found on live recordings. But with Let There Be More Light, Remember a Day, and Set the Controls, it's not a bad showing of material to start with. But things are about to take a nosedive. I do not like Corporal Clegg, and honestly, it sounds like one of those songs where the band's desperately trying to sound like Syd, especially with Dave's irritating guitar parts. It's also odd considering Roger would write much more somber tunes dedicated to his father's sacrifice in World War II. I should note this is actually Nick Mason's first vocal credit on an officially released Floyd song, and the song features kazoos. Yes, kazoos. And God, do they get old really fast. I am also not a fan of Rick's Seesaw, which apparently was labeled the most boring song ever, and rightly so. They just didn't have enough material to fill out the album, so they started working on an epic instrumental to start off side 2, much like Interstellar Overdrive on Piper, but this one was vastly different. The title track is basically 4 pieces, mostly written by Rick, though credited to all 4 members. This includes an avant-garde sonic opening, followed by a repeating drum pattern from Nick, and ending with a church-like organ with celestial voices. I've heard this is supposed to represent war. The record company was very unenthusiastic about the song, wishing they would stick to 3-minute songs like Piper had. There are some fascinating recording devices employed here, even looping Nick's drum pattern like an early drum machine. But Saucerful of Secrets, the song, is definitely an acquired taste. And much like Interstellar Overdrive, it would really come alive in a live setting. And fortunately, we would get some better live incarnations of it later. So now we come to the last song on the album, Jugband Blues, the only Syd Barrett song. And right off the bat, you can tell the lyrical difference between this and the rest of the album. It starts off strong with that distinct, quirky Syd-style rhyme and imagery, though it kinda loses steam once the Salvation Army band takes over. It's also very sad, like Syd is saying goodbye not only to Pink Floyd, but everyone. The line, "What exactly is a joke?" is a powerful question to go out on. I think the album could have benefited including Vegetable Man, which isn't a very long song. The album itself isn't very long, but I think the band were uncomfortable with the subject matter given Syd's condition. It's a shame. This and Jugband together could have been a better send-off for him and sort of an eat a peach kind of vibe. You know, I've been going back and forth over to whether to give this album a bad fish or a spotted fish. Despite the fact that it does have some imaginative moments, and the Floyd were able to explore sounds here, Saucerful of Secrets is kind of a mess of an album. It doesn't know which way it wants to go. Does it want to keep the whimsical Syd Barrett style? Does it want to be avant-garde? It's not particularly well recorded. A couple of the songs are pretty bad, and even others would be better performed on future albums or films. It really is one of those albums where the story behind it is much more interesting than the record itself. Okay, so let's figure this out. Let There Be More Light would be my essential track since it doesn't have an official live version to overshadow it, though the quality of the recording is still an issue for me. I also enjoy Rick's Remember a Day. Set the Controls might be the best song in the album, but again, there are better versions to come. And I do think Syd's Jugband Blues is an emotional swan song for him in Pink Floyd, and a must listen if you're a Syd fan. And while I don't particularly like the studio version of the title track, I realize the Pompeii version wouldn't exist without it, or even Nick's recent rendition, so I'll give it credit for that. I'll be generous and give this album a spotted fish. I think they did their best, all things considered, but it's still going to rank pretty low for me. I wish I could say that we'd get a better grasp on their direction shortly after this, but it's still going to take a little while for them to get back on track, so join me next time.